Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Quinn Wang and I'm a comprehensive ophthalmologist and cataract surgeon who practices out of San Francisco. So I recently graduated from ophthalmology residency a year ago, and although I am super excited to not be a resident anymore, there are certain things that I miss. For example, the camaraderie. I knew that even though I was often physically alone on call, if anything were to go wrong, if I was confused, iWiki wasn't loading, I could always call a senior resident, a fellow, even an attending. So the support network was really great. And it's not something that exists, at least to the same degree, when you're an attending. I also remember that a lot of the most practical things I learned came from my senior residents, and I am so grateful and thankful that I had such good ones. There were 5 of them. They were all guys. They were super chill, and yeah, they were there for us whenever we needed them. And I wanted to keep passing along their pearls and add in some of my own in this video series, and I hope that at least one person out there finds it helpful. So let's get started. I remember so clearly when I first started residency, probably my biggest anxiety that was shared by my new co-residents was being on call, like what that entails, how you answer a page, what should be in your call bag. Now, this last point I find to be really interesting because having a complete call bag can save you a lot of hassle and a lot of time, and exposure to patients is really important right now during COVID, and I think after. So that should be what we focus on today. The call bag essentials and what you should have on you at all times. So you get called in to see a patient. It's 2 a.m. You're tired, the patient's stressed out. It behooves you to be as efficient as possible. We always want to start with the eye vitals: vision, pressure, and pupils. So I like to always have a near card, pinhole occluder, and since most people are not going to have their glasses, I always have a pair of over-the-counter cheaters. Plus 1.5 or plus 2 will do for most people. And when it comes to checking pupils, I really like this pen light that comes in huge packs on Amazon. They're much lighter than the muscle lights in clinic and work just as well, I think. So Amazon pen light for checking pupils and APD. Now for checking pressure, I assume that most people will have access to a tono pen, whether that be in the emergency room or in your on-call room. And so to couple that, I always have numbing drops to get the patient ready. I always have a few tono pen covers in my bag. And if you wanted to be really diligent, I always have fluoresce so I can check pressure at the slit lamp if needed. And this can be pretty important for some patients. So you walk through, you've done your eye vitals, maybe you did a quick slit lamp exam already. The next step, and probably the most important on call, I would say, is to dilate the patient. And for that, I like 2.5 phenylephrine, and sometimes we'll add on a bit of tropicamide. And so these are essential drops, these and the numbing drops. Never forget these. And other things that I like to have are these cotton tips. They work excellently for lid eversion, and if you don't have a scleral depressor, these work in a pinch. Speaking of which, I do have a scleral depressor, which I actually don't use that much. Don't tell anybody. In addition to the drops that I had mentioned, I like to be super prepared. So I actually have a bunch of IOP drops, alpha-GAN, dorzolamide. It depends on what you have available in clinic, but I always have a few in my bag. Antibiotic drops, Cred Forte, antibiotic ointment for a person who's coming in with an epi defect or corneal erosion, and this really not obvious piece for a lot of people, but artificial tear ointment doubles really well as the visco for the B-scan. So I'm never caught without this. Bonus things that will make you look really good to your senior attending and kind of just save your ass. So I love these rubber stoppers for syringes if you ever find yourself needing to do an AC tap, which I have. Skin glue. BCL saved me so many times. Yeah, speculum. We're all going to encounter that patient who squeezes their eyes shut no matter what you do. So worst comes to worst, you pop in a speculum and get your exam done. Apologize to the patient afterwards, but it can make a huge difference. And finally, I like to have some spare gloves and a bit of tape. These are things that are typically lying around, but just in case, I like to have them on me. A really great pearl I learned from one of the seniors is that you can take a glove and kind of tape it over one of the patient's eyes while you're trying to check vision, so you can, be hands-free and doing other things. I use that trick all the time. So those are the very essential things that I have in my bag. And another thing that I wanted to bring up before we move on is that you end up having a ton of drops in your bag. And like I mentioned, the essential ones are numbing, proparacaine, the phenylephrine, and the tropicamide. And I like to keep these separate and put them in a little bag inside my call bag, so I can just reach in and know exactly where they are instead of, fumbling around and shifting through all of the different bottles of drops I have. And I have been in that position before, and it sucks. Now you have the essentials. The next question is, where do you put them? I already showed you previously that I like to put the very important must-have at all time drops in a little bag so you know where they are always. And then I actually like to put that little bag inside a slightly larger bag. Check it out, these have sunglasses on them. And this can hold a lot, basically everything that I showed you. And then I put this bag inside of just a backpack. I like the backpack to be really durable, waterproof, because it's going to be thrown around in the hospital and clinic rooms a lot, and you want it to hold up well. And so in this bag, I have a really great backpack that I used through pretty much all of residency and still do sometimes as an attending. And this bag fits the call bag. It will fit a tono pen, even in its hard shell, and it can fit a fleece. It can also, in a pinch, if you're careful, fit an indirect, which I think is a critical step because you don't want to go into the emergency room being so obvious with your indirect that people will want to curbside you. So sometimes when I was feeling sneaky, I would carefully put my indirect in my bag and kind of look like any other resident. Who knows? I'm not the ophtho resident. I don't know anything about eyes. Now the last, possibly most important part of your call bag that I don't think people emphasize enough, but will contribute greatly to your sanity, is snacks, personal hygiene items. Now for the snacks, you want to make sure that they are crush resistant and time resistant. I sometimes go through my old call stuff and find an old Cliff Bar that's been smashed but it's still edible, so that's useful if you want to repurpose that for hikes later down the road. I really like the Uncrustables, both for in clinic and on call. Now, I know that's not crush resistant, but if you really wanted to go above and beyond, you could put it in a little container. Just like when I'm feeling really like indulgent, I'll take these Trader Joe's dark chocolate peanut butter cups and put them in a tiny little Tupperware like so. You know, we're all in ophtho, so we love cute little things like this. Cap it, just throw it in my call bag with all the other stuff. Or if you prefer not to be prepared, you can kind of hope and pray that your senior comes to your aid with food. I had one who offered to bring me Indian food all the time, and I didn't really appreciate it because I was too stressed as a first year, but now looking back, it was a really nice gesture. So food and basic hygiene items like deodorant, mints, or those Listerine strips, and some chapstick. Also a water bottle. So all of these things together, you know, the drops we went over, the fleece, your call bag, the snacks should set you up really nicely for being able to start being efficient on call. Everyone's gonna develop their own preferred workflow, but it took me a really, really long time to figure things out, and I would love it if I could save you some time during a very stressful time. And eventually it'll get to the point where it feels like second nature and perhaps is even a little bit fun. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll stay tuned for next time.